Adolescence.
Technically, it's extraordinary.
It's like Netflix top 10 in 72 countries.
It's basically shot live, I suppose.
Sometimes people go, oh, it's a gimmick.
There's a handover to a drone. How the hell have they done that?
Hello, welcome to the Media Club. I'm your host, Matt Deegan. In the club today, as the TV crisis continues, Murdoch enters the chat. We take the temperature on the sector with former UKTV Commissioner and now boss at indie Square Pears, Iain Coyle. Also on the programme, as Trump plans to close Voice of America, Kate Bulkley is here to assess its impact on Western media more wildly, and if the World Service can step up. All that, plus we reveal the secrets of the one-take Adolescence, as well as the winners of the Broadcast Press Guild Awards. And in the Media Quiz, we're bringing back Jeopardy. That's all happening in this edition of the Media Club. Come on in. So welcome back to Media Club. Nice to see you again, Kate. Welcome for the first time, Iain. Lovely.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. Your background is in comedy and entertainment, producing, commissioning.
Yeah.
You've got your own indie now. Mm-hmm. Are you having fun? Are you enjoying it?
It's a different business. I mean, we're trying to navigate the collapse of television by moving a little bit more into online and moving into branded space, and basically anybody will have us, really. And it's a learning process. It's like starting all over again. Yes,
well, we'll talk a bit more about it later on. But who would you like to add to our Media Club member list this week?
Like everybody else, I have been gripped by Adolescence, and I mean, I dreamt about it last night. I wept at episode 4, and then I went to bed and dreamt about it. So Stephen Graham is going in for me. I mean, it's highlighted the fact that he is an authentic voice for working class men, I suppose, and he's basically good in everything he does. You know, I'd sort of have noticed, but I hadn't noticed to such an extent. Having watched it, I just went through his CV, and it's an extraordinary CV. He doesn't do stuff that doesn't work, as far as I can see.
And obviously, he's inputted into the production of this quite a bit.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely, and it's an extraordinary. We'll talk about a bit more later, but it's an extraordinary piece of work, and it gives us all a little bit of hope, I think, as well, because it's a British story, British crew, British actors. I mean, it's an incredible piece of work.
And Kate, who's had a good media week this week, or who would you like to add to our club membership?
Well, you know, I'm more on the business side of the business, and I think Jane Featherstone, who actually won a Broadcasting Press Guild Award, the highest award, the Harvey Lee Award for Outstanding Contribution to Broadcasting, would be my pick. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of other people that are interesting, but I think Jane, this is a important time for her. You know, with Black Doves, and I mean, there's just a litany of things that she's done. Obviously, Sister Productions has gone from strength to strength. Interestingly, they closed their LA office late last year, which now with the LA fires and everything else seems like probably the right move. They lost obviously Cindy Holland, but they've just promoted someone inside the company. They just seem to be really leaning into drama, British drama, but also drama that travels. A lot of their stuff actually works, and of course that's really important when you're running an indie. You have to be able to monetize across multiple platforms and territories now. You can't just rely on, unfortunately, on the British broadcasters.
Well, speaking of that, as the British TV industry retools to meet international demand, one plucky young indie chief has put their head above the parapet and called out some of the big issues. Who is it, this up-and-coming person, Iain?
Well, it's Liz Murdoch, and it irritates me, Liz Murdoch, because if you read it, she hasn't really said anything. She just said, "Oh, it's really bad, isn't it? It's been awful, all this stuff with everybody struggling." You know, Liz Murdoch has got vast power, and she's got lots of influence, and I'd imagine a decent back balance. And I'm sure she's lovely as a person, but she has the ability to put pressure on government. Don't just reflect how awful it is. Do something about it. She could do something about it. She could set up schemes. She could influence government, lobby government, do something about it rather than just say, yeah, it's really bad. Because we all know it's bad.
Well, if I can just jump in here, you know, far be it for me to defend Liz Murdoch, but I am going to in this very case, because I think actually of the Murdoch, she's one of the people that's actually been more pro the television industry, because obviously she's been in it. Yes, she has come from money, and it's not like she doesn't have a couple of shekels to rub together, but she's part of Sister as well, and they are doing a lot. They are lobbying very hard. I mean, the thing about the crisis in television is it's not just because we don't have enough tax breaks. It is partly that. It is not just because there isn't enough money. Well, it's because we have just the plethora of platforms that are out there competing for really all the talent, and it's really tough. So it's not, there's a whole bunch of things that are going on. I think the big one right now is this bundling of rights, of primary and secondary rights. This is a huge issue, and it's something that, Sister and Andy Harries and all these people are fighting hard against and talking to PACT about, which obviously is speaks for the independent sector in the UK. The independent sector in the UK, as we all know, is so strong because they actually are able to hold on to secondary rights, and they have to negotiate for primary rights and secondary rights separately. What is being proposed now is that won't happen anymore. There will be a bundling of the secondary rights. So that, for instance, if you go out and you pitch a show to, say, BBC, and they say, well, yes, we'll do it, but this is the deficit you have to finance, what you would do now is you'd go and find you'd find a distributor, you'd find another broadcaster, you'd do something to make up the difference. Now, basically what they're saying is that the broadcaster, meaning the BBC in this particular instance, would be able to come back and say, I will match those secondary rights. But, in other words, I'll pay you the same money as whatever distributor you found. But, of course, what they're going to want their piece of flesh, too, they're going to want more rights. They're going to want to hold on to more rights. Of course, that's how the indies make money, because if they own rights, they can sell it, exploit it in other markets, and that's how they create their business and grow. And, Iain, you're an indie, you know what I'm talking about. So it's a whole bunch of things that are happening, and I do think that a lot of the big industry players are talking very hard against this particular thing, because that's a huge issue right now.
I mean, Iain, you were the other side of the fence as a commissioner.
I just find it. I accept all that. I just find it galling when the Murdochs, or rather her father, has spent decades trying to destroy the British broadcasting in his own image, to then for them to start saying, oh yes, it's really, really awful.
Yeah, but keep in mind, they're fighting a lawsuit right now. Murdoch's tried to strip Liz and James of their inheritance, and they've gone to court, and they lost, and I'm sure there'll be an appeal. So, Rupert Murdoch and Lachlan are very different, cats, basically.
They should make a show about that.
They should. Well, what can they call it?
I mean,
Succession?
One of the things she talks about, and has been talked about quite widely, 80% of the content on PSB channels, British, on the streamers, it's 10%. Naturally, they're programming for the world. When you're on the other side of the fence, people are pitching shows to you. You can fund some of it. It's a tough position. You know that this is a great idea, but I need this producer to go off and find some more cash.
Yeah, and progressively more. It's like television has become like movies now. I think a bigger question is whether the UK can keep 3 public service broadcasters going. I think we have to look at. The landscape's completely changed, and I think they almost need to retract and sit down together, BBC, Channel 4 and ITV, and work out some sort of deal, whether they can either work together or a loosening of handcuffs.
That sort of good work is spread too thin.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very difficult. When I was working for UKTV, it was difficult because we didn't, we were a small, punched above our weight, but we were a small broadcaster, and it was very difficult to fund things. We had to choose very carefully what we.
Yeah, but you had the BBC library. UKTV had a huge advantage as they moved into the VOD world and everything else. So I have to take a little bit of unction with that one.
That's absolutely that was that was great, and it was the foundation that the business was built on.
And when you've got the producers kind of coming to you with their ideas, as we were talking about there, the secondary rights, or the fact that the producers can own elements of these brands and take them forward. That was the swap to get that content onto channels like Dave.
I mean, I think UKTV and Dave, I think we're a bit more flexible than other broadcasters. You know, if a show was successful and then you were renegotiating a second series, then the things were a bit more flexible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a question everybody's asking now about rights, and unfortunately, I think we're headed towards the States. I really do.
Well, also, I think we're heading towards not just television. I mean, comedy in particular, and you know more about this than I do, but it seems to me that comedy is something that it's really hard to commission on just a broadcaster alone. It has to be something else. There has to be branded content. There has to be something else going on. There has to be another revenue stream. And a lot of that's going to happen on YouTube or some of these other platforms. It's not going to happen on a Channel 4 or a BBC, at least not solely, in my opinion.
I mean, comedies, but that's a whole other episode. Comedy is in complete crisis.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly a studio-based comedy. There's probably 3, 4 I can think of now, whereas it used to be a very healthy part of our menu, didn't it? But yeah.
This week saw President Trump sign an order to strip back Voice of America, the US government's equivalent of the World Service. Kate, Trump's not a fan of broadcast media, and I guess he sort of inherited his own broadcast media network, but has decided, it's a Carrie Lake, slightly scary ex-TV presenter turned politician was going to be sent in there to basically turn it into Fox News. But actually, she's been given some other instructions, which is just shut the thing down.
Just shut it down.
Which she has.
I mean, Trump isn't a fan of media, full stop, if it's against him. In other words, if it's fair, balanced, or against him, or anybody says anything but boo to him, he wants to shut it down. What's going on in America in terms of media is really scary. The VOA closure is just the most recent, and the problem is it's happening so quickly. It's like every day there's something. I mean, first Associated Press was banned from the White House press briefing because they wouldn't say Gulf of America instead of the name, which is Gulf of Mexico. Oh my goodness. They're appealing, going to the courts, but the courts are now being pressured as well. The Trump administration has targeted law firms that do anything with the Democrats. There's just a whole litany of things. Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia student who has a green card, has a right to say whatever he wants in the U.S. He has the same rights as any other U.S. citizen as a green card holder, is now incarcerated because he, of course, was protesting about, Palestinian rights and things like that. And Trump has decided that he's going to weigh in on the side of Israel and everyone else be damned. And so it's very scary. So there's a lot going on in terms of, let's say, suppression of the media in general to support what I would call, without pulling any punches, the fascist overtake of America, which is, for somebody like me who's a journalist and, started my career in America and then have been over here for more than 30 years, it's really, really scary because, it's a big country and it has a lot of clout. And, the Voice of America isn't perfect, but it's definitely sending out information to countries that don't get any balanced information at all. So the fact that he's just going to shut it down, again, it's one of these soft power things. Soft power is very powerful. You get rid of those kind of things, whether it's USAID or Voice of America, and you're in a...
Who does it benefit?
Who does it benefit?
Yeah,
well, it benefits dictators and fascist people around the globe. But in terms of the media business...
What's his internal sell for why it should go?
Oh, I don't think he needs it, does he?
Doesn't need it.
I think Voice of America set up in...
After the Second World War.
42, I think it was. It was set up 42 to offset the Nazi propaganda. I'm saying nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But isn't it? I think this is sort of symptomatic of the insular nature of America's becoming more and more insular, and as you said, soft power. I think they underestimate the value of it, and I think we're the same with the World Service. There's a lot of, because we are reducing our output of the World Service, and we're pulling funding back from that. I think again it is our influence in the world is shrinking.
Well, one of the interesting challenges for World Service is obviously who pays for it.
Yeah.
So historically, the government paid for it, then BBC had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Now,
And that's a mixture, isn't it?
Now, mainly the BBC pays for it, but some of that comes from government funding.
Yeah.
Obviously, Labour is slightly more positive towards that than the Conservatives were. Do you think, Kate, this gives a better opportunity when the BBC is renegotiating its licence fee, when we're talking about the World Service, to get the UK government to better support it because VOA has disappeared into a puff of smoke?
Well, I hope so. It depends on who's in government here.
Yeah.
I mean, as we're seeing sort of a shift to the right around the world, not here at the moment, which is great. So yeah, I think this government would probably say yes. Let's pick up the mantle and try to get sort of the Western democratic idea of free speech and media, balanced media, out to the rest of the world, particularly to countries that don't have any kind of free media at all.
I mean, in some ways, with the VOA disappearing, there's opportunity. There's opportunity for World Service, but there's also opportunities for Sputnik, Russia's outfit, China's outfit, who want this access and frequencies.
I suppose I'm not arguing to be devil's advocate. I suppose that it's not really needed as much. You can get to media now via your phone, wherever you are in the world, pretty much. And with VPNs and stuff, even countries that censor things, you can still get things. So I suppose it's less important, I suppose, from that perspective.
No, I totally disagree.
Yeah, well,
totally disagree.
I mean, as I said, I was just being a devil's advocate.
You can shut down the internet. You know, China doesn't have an open internet. They can't get a VPN in China, right? Okay. The other thing is that they need. Okay. If it's less important, yes, you can get lots of information on your phone, but who is providing that information? And what kind of news ghetto are you in, if you see what I mean? If you're getting all your information, I mean, look at what Channel 4 did with, Generation Z stuff that they were talking about. This idea that these guys are getting more and more depressed because they're in these sort of little rabbit holes of information. They're not getting what I would call balanced, fair information. And as we close down more of these kind of organizations, that is not a good thing for democracy, in my opinion. I mean,
also, we're back to BBC licence fee chatter, aren't we? Which is sort of the conversation that somewhat never ends.
I mean, as you said, hopefully Labour will be a little bit more generous because, we've had 14, 15 years of BBC bashing, and I think the phrase is envy of the world. That's what everybody says about the BBC. But it is true. I think it's one of the last bastions of British pride, I think.
Okay, when we return, how to make a one-take drama. I'll see you after the break.
Hello Media Club listeners, Patrick here from Podcast Discovery, the podcast marketing company, where this week we've been thinking about press appearances. How do you get on live radio? Is it really just about knowing who to call? How many people are actually listening? And what about TV and print? To speak to us about PR or anything else to do with podcast marketing, head to podcastdiscovery.com. That's podcastdiscovery.com.
This week on the Media Club, we're taking a closer look at how you consume media. As we've just discussed, YouTube has evolved into a full-fat TV experience, and lots of podcasts are following suit too. In fact, you might even be watching us on YouTube or Spotify right now. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, already have one that's perhaps only just the audio, adding video could be a total game changer. That's where Podshop Studios comes in. With customizable sets, top-tier audio and video production gear, Podshop makes it easy to create broadcast quality video content that audiences actually want to watch. For a limited time, you can enjoy 25% off your first booking at Podshop Studios with the code Media Club. Just visit podshoponline.co.uk to book and take your video podcast to the next level. Don't miss out. Grab this chance today. Welcome back. Here's what we've been talking about in the Media Club this week. The Royal Television Society has had a turbulent couple of weeks, having scrapped an award for journalists in Gaza over a controversy surrounding a BBC documentary. Well, it's back on after pressure from Jonathan Dimbleby, amongst many others. The RTS said on Tuesday that a special gong will be awarded at next week's programme awards. Meanwhile, readers of The Guardian's website will soon have to consent or pay. The new subscription tier, Guardian Ad Lite, means that you still see advertising, but the ads won't follow you around the internet as it will switch off your cookies. So basically a way to force you to say yes to the cookies. A confusing sell, perhaps, but given most of Fleet Street now offers this, maybe there is a market after all. And Netflix have revealed a few secrets about the filming of their hit series Adolescence. Each episode of the one-take drama took at least 10 takes over 5 days, sometimes more. And they even did something becoming rare in TV, rehearsals. What will they think of next? Links to all of these stories and more available right now on the Media Club Substack. Sign up for free at themediaclub.com. Iain and Kate are still with me. Iain, Adolescence. It's not a bad show, is it?
I mean, it's incredibly powerful. I mean, I suppose for those who haven't seen it,
and Kate, you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I mean,
We're selling it to you.
It's brilliant on so many levels, but technically, it's extraordinary. It's basically shot live, I suppose. It's shot in one take, and there are some extraordinary feats of camera work. It's episode 2. One of the kids jumps out the window, runs across the playground. The camera jumps through the window with him and goes across the playground, and then the kid goes to run across the road, and then suddenly the camera takes off, and you're thinking, how the hell have they done that? But so essentially they're running with him, and then there's a handover to a drone of the camera, which, I mean, I don't think that's ever been done before. I'm not aware that's been done before. But I mean, I suppose a tribute to it is that very quickly you forget that it's all been shot on in one take. I mean, because
sometimes people go, "Oh, it's a gimmick."
Yeah, and I suppose I was thinking of a position where you could say, "Oh, well, that sort of gets in the way of the content," but I don't think it does. I mean, it creates an atmosphere. Every episode's very different, though. I mean, a couple of episodes are sort of trapped in one particular space, or a couple of particular spaces, and it's just so emotional. Stephen Graham's extraordinary, and as a father of boys, it is so moving. I mean, I had to contact my kids as soon as I finished watching it. But I mean, as I said earlier, I think it offers a real beacon of hope, because it is a British story, British technical team, British director, you know, all the actors. I mean, some of the performances are extraordinary.
The main child actor has not acted before in anything, really. Yeah. And in effect, it has to be a live drama. You've
not watched episode 3 yet.
No, I mean, on 1 and 2.
Wait till you watch episode 3. He is extraordinary.
And I think that was the first one they filmed as well.
Yeah, and that is... I mean, again, it's all done live. I can't, there's no cuts in it, and it's fantastic. I mean, some of the smaller parts as well. Some of the kids are just brilliant, and it's the first time all of them have acted pretty much.
I thought also what was interesting. It's like Netflix top 10 in 72 countries.
Yeah,
it's really. It's very much a British story,
but it's grabbed.
But it's travelled.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And you sort of look at that, because obviously we talk a lot about British things being locked in Britain, and no one would ever make this.
Yeah,
and they do sometimes.
Well, I suppose it's in a strange way. It's a universal story. It's about a kid. It's about school. It's about life and death and parenthood. So it is pretty universal.
So I saw an interview with Jack Thorne, who's the writer, and he was saying actually he was quite inspired by Netflix Squid Game, and just saying it works everywhere, but it tells a local story. Yeah, and I think that's it's sort of interesting, using that as a positive.
Well, in episode 1 with the playground, you can see that influence as well, because there's so many extras. But yeah, I don't have to encourage people to watch it, because 24 million people have watched it already. So, but it really is quite an extraordinary, and forget award ceremonies. It's won already. You might as well just give up everybody else.
Kate, next year, Broadcast Press Guild, I think it'll do pretty well.
Might be an Innovation in Broadcasting award.
Yes, yeah. Speaking of the BPGs, it was last night. Yeah. Who are your big winners?
Well, there's a lot of big winners. I mean, I'm not going to go through them all, but the ones that I would pick out, Mr. Bates in the Post Office, I mean, in some ways, obviously, if you know what I mean, won Best Drama. The other one that I would pick out, Best Comedy, Gavin and Stacey, the finale, which I thought was brilliant, so that's nice. Traders won again. They actually won last year for Best Entertainment. But the ones that stuck out for me were the Best Actress, Jessica Gunning for Baby Reindeer on Netflix, and I'm sure everybody's seen that. That's another one of those ones that sort of traveled all around the world. But she is, extraordinary on that, and I think that's a real testament that she would win that award. And then our Best Actor was Danny Dyer for Rivals. Now, Rivals is interesting, and I got a lot of sort of press, and sort of like, with this, Julie Cooper, how old is this book? And now suddenly it's back, and we're all going to go to the Cotswolds in the 80s and talk about,
Also, as media people are listening at home or in the room, anything with a backdrop of ITV franchise renegotiation, of course, is a brilliant series.
It's like a cartoon, though, isn't it? It is, and obviously Danny Dyer playing Danny Dyer. I mean, he is fantastic in it.
Yeah, I think that's why the Guild awarded it to him. It was there were lots of other actors in that category, but he won, I think, hands down, so that's good. And then the other one I would just maybe talk about is Bella McLean, also in Rivals, won our Breakthrough Award, which is sort of talent that's sort of just okay, pay attention, watch out. So I think that's really nice that she won as well. So those would be the picks. But it was a good list. It was a pretty good year. Again, quite British, which I like. Best documentary series, actually, Freddie Flintoff, Field of Dreams on Tour won, which I thought was a great show. So I mean, I think it's a good mix.
A great list of winners there. But also, Netflix and Mensa took home the award for Best Executive.
Yeah, that's a jury prize award.
Yeah.
And interesting, what happens in the Guild is we have the members vote, and then we also have an executive committee who sort of looks at things. And it was agreed that Anne Mensa, it made total sense because Netflix has done interesting work, and Anne has really been pivotal in pushing a lot of that stuff through. So I think it's interesting we have not one but two senior women who've won our big awards. She won our jury prize for Best Executive, and of course Jane Featherstone won our Harvey Lee Outstanding Contribution to Broadcasting Award, which is a mouthful. But so it's nice to have these two, leading, British pro-drama, long form series. I mean, it's great to have them both win.
Having good champions as well is important. So, Iain, as we talked about earlier, you've swapped sides. Do you see it as swapping sides, or is everything a little bit more blurred now? Skills, relationships.
I mean, basically, I was commissioning for nearly 10 years, and I just thought, I'm a gentleman of a certain vintage, and I sort of thought, well, I want to get out back and do some stuff again. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like the industry is going to collapse, is it? Yes, it did. It did collapse. I sort of spent about 12 months, sort of like everybody else, just like a rabbit in the headlights. And my colleague, Joe McVeigh, who was also commissioning with me at Dave, we sort of got, we were talking, because we're close friends, we were talking quite a lot about it, and fundamentally, people aren't watching any less content. If anything, they're watching more content. They're just watching it on different medium. So I think we sort of said, well, let's stop moaning about it and do something about it. So we've set up Square Pears with basically just, I suppose, a design to be as flexible as possible. So to do podcasts, to do branded stuff, to do YouTube series, but also, very happy to take commissions from television as well. So yeah, it's
keep your rights.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, it's a brave new world out there, and I also think, I've watched a lot of branded content like all of us do, and a lot of it tries to be funny, and it isn't. And the ad space similarly, and you think, well, there is a huge amount of people who've made decent comedy and well-known comedy who are now just kicking their heels about. So why not use that talent? So that's the logic. So yes. So if anybody needs anything amusing made, please let me know.
And is there something coming up with Channel 4.0? People who don't know what that is, it's sort of almost another channel, isn't it, from the network?
I think they're ahead of the game. The Channel 4 are pushing ahead of the game with stuff, with branded stuff, and they're very smart, and they are innovative, and they work really well. They themselves contact brands, and then brands contact them. You can go to them with an idea, and they can fit a brand to it, or a brand can come to them with an idea, a vague idea, and then they can contact. Look at the shelf of ideas they've got and put the ideas to it, or they can contact the indies who are prepared to do that. I mean, it's a different world because you're having to please a brand directly, but
it's different than product placement. I remember we've been doing this for a long time, and I think what's evolved is it's become more than just product placement or some of those really naff branded efforts early on. And I think you're right. Channel 4 is really thinking differently about it. I mean, look at how much money the influencers are making on YouTube with branded things.
Do you think that's almost pushed broadcast into a more interesting place because some of the creators have...
Well, I think any innovation and change, you've got to be nimble and to be creative. I mean, fundamentally, when we were making stuff for Channel 4 and ITV before, we were... the adverts were coming at the start and the end of the shows, so it's not a huge leap. You couldn't say unpleasant things about some of the products that were advertised around your shows. So, you can still be innovative in that space, and that's what we're aiming to do.
Obviously, the comedy entertainment, talent's such an important part of it. People with sort of strong voices or kind of takes on the world. How are they with this journey too about where their talent should reside?
You know what? I think comedians and comics, again, have been ahead of the game because they've seen the opportunities on television dwindle quicker than anybody else. So they've adapted very quickly to social media and the YouTube space, and they've changed their model accordingly. So I think they're less snooty about it. I mean, obviously, some people won't go near it, but I think
it can be quite enabling. It's much more enabling than it used to be.
I mean, if it's a brand you don't like or don't want to be associated with, don't take the gig. Yeah. Don't take the gig.
Well, speaking of brands I love to be associated with, we're going to be back in a couple of minutes after this break with the media quiz. We'll see you then. Welcome back. Ian and Kate are still here because they're, of course, desperate to play the media quiz.
Oh, definitely.
It's where we try and work out how much attention you've been paying to the media news this week. Now, this week's quiz is entitled Jeopardy. As ITV announced the reboot of a UK version of Jeopardy, I thought we could have a trial run with 3 media stories from the week. I'll give you the answer. You just give me the question.
Oh, okay.
It's a best of 3. Buzz in with your name if you know the answer. So, Kate, you will say...
Kate.
And Ian, you will say...
Ian.
Let's play Jeopardy. Question number 1, or answer number 1. Stephen Fry.
Ian.
Yes.
Is the host of Jeopardy UK, which has just been recommissioned, I believe.
Yes.
In another exciting commission for mainstream broadcasting. They're bringing a big brand back.
Yeah, it's a reboot of a big brand.
That's a surprise.
Yes.
A surprise. Exactly.
Correct. Yeah, Stephen Fry is the new host of Jeopardy. I mean, it's a good choice. He's a good get for them.
Sure.
Isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue against it, but it's like they brought back Gladiators. They brought back Deal or No Deal. They brought back Jeopardy. It's like, oh, come on, guys, let's try and do something new. Come on.
It's like it's trying to be too safe. Well, you've been a commissioner. You know what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's
your bosses are saying, "Get me something that's going to work, Ian."
Yeah, and it is about risk aversion, but it's so obvious risk aversion.
I don't think it's also a slam dunk. I don't think Jeopardy's ever been particularly a UK.
No, it hasn't been particularly
it's a big
popular.
US show.
And I do think Stephen Fry is a peculiar thing for him to do. But he went big on the fact that he was a huge fan of it. Really? Are you?
Really?
Or is it just something you can record like 20 episodes of in like 3 days?
Yeah, with no audience and just knock it out. And I mean, there's a lot to be said for that for a performer, isn't there?
Okay, answer number 2. The Scottish soap that's just been axed by the BBC.
I can't remember.
Ian.
Yes.
What is it River City?
Correct.
City, yeah.
Yes, that's right. Have either of you ever caught an episode of River City?
No. And therein lies the issue, I think. I mean, it is a tragedy because it's been going for 20 odd years, I believe, and
a local production in the
absolutely.
nation.
And you know what's brilliant about those soaps? You know that they are a real training ground for people, and so it's a tragedy for the people of Glasgow, I guess, and
aren't they going to commission like 3 new shows off the back of it or something?
Yeah,
Isn't that the plan? Although I don't know how the budget's going to work on that. 1 to 3.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know about that, but I mean, it's sad for the people involved and sad for the industry up there. But if it's not, it's economics. I mean, if it's not landing, then they've got to move on.
I mean, sort of River City and Doctors, both series which are really useful for the industry and don't have a place anymore. It's tough stuff. Okay, answer number 3. The radio station that's bagged rights to F1 for 3 years.
BBC Radio. Kate.
Excuse me. Yes.
Kate. I never play right. BBC Radio 5, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is 5 Live? It's still. I mean, it's people go around a track. It's commentating. F1's had a bit of a resurgence,
but it's live sport. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Noisy. Yeah.
I mean, just personally, just gets on my nerves because it gets in the way of the football coverage. But I know I know a lot of people enjoy it. So good luck to them, and go whoever the British guy is.
Well, I think also BBC Studios have snagged a sort of behind-the-scenes podcast series.
Yeah, I mean, Drive to Survive is brought a whole new audience to Formula One, I believe, and there's a huge female audience for it now, which seems extraordinary to me. But good luck to them.
Good luck to them.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to them.
Well, congratulations, Ian. A debut performance and a win on the quiz.
I mean, what have I won?
Well, as a special prize, you'll get to go to 17 F1 races and report back next time.
Well, to be fair, that would be a decent thing because they're all around the world, I believe.
That's right.
You will be paying for your own effort.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us. Kate, how can people keep up with what you're up to?
Well, on my LinkedIn, I put stories up there. I write a column for Broadcast magazine, so that's probably the best way to do it.
And Ian, how can people keep track of your new commissions?
Squarepears.com, Square Pears, as in the fruit.
As in the fruit?
Squarepears.com. Come to us with your anything, nothing too small, nothing too big, preferably medium-sized.
Excellent.
And probably funny, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Medium and funny at squarepears.com. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us as well. As we said earlier, remember, go to themediaclub.com to sign up to our free Substack. Get a weekly update of the stories that we write about and what's on the show. My name's Matt Deegan. The producer was Matt Hill. It was a Rethink audio production with video support from Podcast Discovery. I'll see you next week.